fascinating story here, which really speaks to one of the fundamentals of marketing that I was taught when I first got into the space, and I think is it still rings true. I mean, even with some of the consulting work that we're doing with certain brands and restaurants, just the idea that, as a marketer and as a practitioner, one of your only responsibilities, I mean, we have tons of responsibilities and the days get taken up by lots of different tasks, but fundamentally, our role is to protect the brands that we service at all costs. And this story is interesting. It's come out of the New York Times, and it highlights that there are restaurants really throughout the world, including some with Michelin stars, that are starting to receive these threatening emails from really what are restaurant terrorists, saying, look, we're going to barrage your Google listing, your Yelp listing with 1-star reviews if you don't give us X, Y, and Z. And in most of the cases, it's something like a $75 Google Play Store gift card. So it's nothing crazy in terms of the expense that these stores are having to cough up to avoid this. But it's really indicative of two sides of what is a very important brand equation here. So on the one side, the hackers, the terrorists, whatever you want to call them, have realized just how important it is for restaurants in this day and age to have as close to a 5-star or a stellar rating as you can possibly get. All things equal, pricing, cuisine even, most people are going to make their dining decisions on a quick Google search and a quick Yelp search of the restaurants in their area, and then they're going to probably pick the one with the highest star rating, all else equal. And knowing that, it's actually similar to kind of organic search results. And when you think about how important it is to be one of the top 3 hits on Google, the same is true when it comes to your star rating as a restaurant and really anything hospitality, because the difference between having a 4.8 and a 3.8 star rating is enormous in terms of what the impact on your top line. And so knowing this, I think the restaurants too are in a between a rock and a hard place where of course you don't want to give up cash or you don't want to reward people for doing this kind of behavior, but they're left with no choice because they understand just how valuable it is as a brand to have a great star rating. Now, we recently did some work for a restaurant group and one of the things that we talked to them a lot about was encouraging their users to leave reviews. And surprisingly for most people, but if you work in the space, it's not so surprising that even when you encourage people to leave reviews, proper reviews, I mean, if you really ask customers to leave reviews, what happens is on net or on average, the star rating actually skews quite high, surprisingly high. It's very rare for people to leave anything lower than a 3-star review. And as a restaurant owner, as a hospitality, the hotel or whatever kind of business owner, if you live and breathe by star ratings and making sure that you've got a great star rating with the requisite volume, of course, to be impressive, encouraging people to leave reviews is always a good idea because, again, on the margins there, things typically work out okay. Where this story gets very interesting is that in the face of 1-star reviews, even Michelin restaurants, right? I mean, Michelin star restaurants typically don't need to worry too much about reputation. But these are the kinds of restaurants that these restaurant terrorists are targeting, because even a Michelin recognition, it just isn't enough anymore in this day and age. Similar to Google, when you think about the proxy for organic search, where you can have a great business nowadays. I mean, really, stellar customer service, stellar website, all these kinds of things. But if you're not showing up high on Google, you just don't have the trust factor. So trust in today's age as a consumer is very different. It's almost changed to where we as consumers rely on other other indicators now to tell us whether something is good enough. It's rare for people to even have their own opinions. Think about even just some of the conversations you probably have with individuals in your network. People's opinions are very much informed by what others are telling them, and then nowadays, especially, what the tech platforms are serving to us in terms of what's showing up on our Instagram feeds or Facebook feeds or Twitter feeds, what's showing up at the top of Google, and then finally what's showing up at the top of Yelp in terms of the restaurants that we go to as well. So it's fascinating. It caught my eye because of that fundamental lesson that I was taught when I first got into marketing from my mentor, just about protecting the brands that we service at all costs. I mean, it's so important that as marketers, we remember that, okay, there's going to be noise. There's going to be all these things that are thrown your way that you've got to kind of avoid or help your brands navigate. But the one fundamental is that you have to protect the brand at all cost. And this rings completely true. Michelin star restaurants all across the world, when faced with a $75 cost or a $75 ransom, will cough it up, almost without thinking, to make sure that those 1-star reviews aren't there, because a 1-star review is so difficult to overcome. For you to have, even just mathematically, right, to 1-star review offsets a 5-star review, you're left at 3. So what is it going to take to get you back to 4.5, 4.6, 4.7? I mean, it's going to take so many 5-star reviews to offset that 1-star review. So there's a lot at play. As restaurant owners, I'd say the one tip here is to just encourage real customers to leave reviews as often and as frequently as you can, because on average, they typically skew higher. If somebody is really unhappy, if hopefully you're operating a business where people don't leave completely unhappy, but if you are, when asked, typically people won't leave a review unless they're really, really annoyed. And then on average, typically people leave better reviews. So the way to combat this is to be proactive about grabbing reviews from as many people as you can. And then, of course, if the opportunity arises, just work the balance sheet to where you can afford to pay these ransoms, because until maybe legislation or something else comes into play, that's the only way to protect your brand. Your brand is going to have the earning power over time to offset these, hopefully, these ransoms faster than fighting them is going to in the short term.